You're live.
Hi, everyone. I'm Madeline, the Teacher Success Manager here at Banqer. For those that are new, we are a financial literacy education software company based in Christchurch. In my role, a big part of my day today is working with teachers all across Australasia to easily and effectively implement Banqer Primary in their classrooms. So thank you so much for tuning in today. Our aim is for you to walk away with some knowledge of how to create real-world financial lessons in your own classrooms using Banqer. I'm privileged to be joined today by two champion Banqer teachers who will share with you their insights into both New Zealand and Australian classrooms, their experiences, successes, and tips and tricks of using the platform. But before we do that, though, we know that your time is valuable, so that we can quickly run through what the webinar will look like. You'll know what to expect over the next 45 minutes or so. We'll start by hearing a bit from each of our presenters on how they use Banqer in their own classrooms. Then I'll screen share to show you how to set up your own virtual economy, and then we'll wrap up with a few discussion questions for our presenters at the end. For everyone in the audience out there, we encourage your participation through the chat function to share your thoughts and questions. Why not let us know now where are you all tuning in from today? Myself and the team will pick up any questions in the chat as we go, or we'll add them to the discussion at the end of the webinar. If we run out of time to answer your questions, we'll come back to you via email, so no worries. We also have a couple of audience polls for you to participate in today, the first of which is on your screen now. Do you currently cover any financial literacy topics in your classroom? So this is a simple yes or no question. Shouldn't take too long, but you'll be able to see those answers come through on your screen. So let me go ahead and introduce our wonderful presenters today. We'll start with Kerry Horan. Kerry is a Year 5-6 teacher in Morrinsville, New Zealand. She's part of the leadership team at her school and is a very experienced educator, having taught all year levels across the school. She's used Banqer since 2020 and has become known for her colorful and creative classroom displays to keep students engaged. Kerry, it's great to have you along.
Thank you.
We're also joined by Brooke Baker. Brooke is a Year 5 teacher in Perth, Australia. Brooke has nearly 2 decades of experience as an educator. She's taught a wide range of year levels, from 5 all the way through Year 12, but especially loves teaching the Year 5 age group. She's in her 4th year using Banqer as a way to bring real-life lessons into her classroom in an engaging way. Awesome to have you with us, Brooke.
Thank you so much.
All right, so let's jump right into it. I'm going to pass it over to Kerry to get a little bit of a glimpse into your classroom.
Awesome. Thanks, Madeline. Just like to say thank you, Madeline, for this opportunity. And just a little disclaimer, first of all, my job within the school is I'm within school leader for our kahuiako. So that's how I'm involved in the leadership of our school. I've been using Banqer since 2020 and started prior to our first lockdown, as you would know, hit in 2020. And that's when Banqer really came alive for me in my classroom. It was a time where we had a lot of kids at home, obviously learning from home, and it was a chance to keep them engaged while they were at home. That's when the money really started becoming a bit more meaningful for them. It was that link between home and school. It meant that I could use Banqer to motivate them to keep on doing their work when we weren't there in person to motivate them. And it's just grown from strength to strength every year from there. I've been lucky enough for the past 3 years to be working in a modern learning environment with 2 teachers, and we've had an amazing space to work in, hence why, which is where I am now. Those teachers that I've worked with have both been very creative teachers, and they have also helped me set up this amazing Banqer system in this classroom. So what you see behind me, which is also on the next screen, is probably what led to me being here today. Last year I did a case study for Banqer, and my pictures of the wall display ended up out there on Facebook and things, and that's where this has led to. So very privileged to be here today and to be sharing with you some of the things I do in my classroom. So behind me, you'll see, and in the picture is our wall display, which is often the first thing people notice when they come into the classroom. We put the map up at the bottom for when we start to sell houses. We have property sales, which happen within the classroom when you open the real estate module, and the kids are able to buy houses and then move their tickets from the houses for sale to the houses that are sold. We also have our class job market. So at the start of every term, we put up the jobs in the classroom that are available for the term. The students write CVs and they apply for the jobs using Banqer Primary, and then they get their names up on the board. So it's really visual to know who's doing which job and who should be doing what when they should be doing what. We also have, on the other side, the driver's licenses. So when we open the transport module, the kids create their own driver's license, and once they have enough money to buy a car, they put their driver's license under that car that they have brought. This is fully, it moves around as they buy and sell cars. As you can imagine, they get quite excited about buying and selling different types of cars. So they're able to, those are all Velcroed on the wall. They can come up and move those when they want to. At the moment, you can see that just us teachers are the only ones who own the luxury cars in our classroom. And that's because we have all the funds from the bank on Banqer. The kids get quite a laugh out of that. So you can see there, just in that little inset picture, that that's myself and my co-teacher, and we are the only ones who own those luxury cars. Just get you to flick on to the next slide. Something else that we do that we've just started doing in our class this year is using what we call a ticket system, which is we liken to a pay slip at the end of the week. So I've found that Banqer has been amazing for kids' work ethic and their self-management, and getting them to really, it's that motivation to get their work done by the end of the week. So what we have there with that ticket system is everything that we have as our independent work for the week. So while myself and my co-teacher are taking groups, the kids have activities that they need to be working either online or offline in their books. And as the week goes on, they tick those off, and then towards the end of the week, we start to sign things off. So on a Friday, their ticket is to green time, and once they have their green time, they get to do some educational games, coding, that kind of thing on a Friday. And how it fits in with Banqer Primary is we also pay them per signature. So you can set this up however you like in terms of how much money. In our class, they get $100 for each signature they get. And then as well as that, we can also give them a bonus depending on how well they've worked that week. And then they get paid. I have my two Banqer people in the classroom, and that's their weekly job to do those payments. So again, that's taking something away that I don't have to do, and it just keeps those kids really motivated. What they're saving their money for over the year, and what they're putting money into term deposits and buying houses and making their money grow, is our end of year Banqer auction, which has become within the school something that all the kids know when it's happening at the end of the year. We get our class to bring things in from home that pre-loved, or a book or something that it's kind of like a big garage sale really. So they bring their things from home that they're not wanting anymore, and they get set up on our high tables along the window. They're set up for the day beforehand, and the kids can come in and peruse of what they think they might like to spend their Banqer money on. And then we have a silent auction. So they have some time where they can have a look at the table, they can write what they think that piece of whatever it is that they would like to buy, what they think it's worth. And then we run that as a silent auction, and it's always a really exciting, fun way to end the year. Some of the ways that I've used Banqer for literacy learning is we use the different modules, so the transport module, the property module, insurance module. As I open them, we have them as a module that they complete in their maths time. So Banqer has an amazing amount of resources already online, to the point where at times I feel like I don't do it justice because there's just so much there to use. They're really user-friendly. They are all done on Google Slides, but you're able to edit them to suit your class and your learners' needs. So basically, I will grab a module, I'll add a few text boxes here and there, I'll make it a little bit easier if I need to, or add some extension in, and then we just set that up on our Google Classroom, and the kids are able to just potter away on that. And usually with a little bit of temptation again. So for example, you have to finish your transport module before you can make your license, before you can buy a car. So it's just that kind of getting them along the track. Last year, probably not so well this year, but last year we did a really good job of hooking our Banqer into our homework tasks. So each module also has a homework sheet that can go alongside it, and you're able to send that home to parents, and that just really encourages those round the table discussions about things. And that's where we've had a lot of parents come back and just be blown away with the kind of language that their kids are using, that they know about mortgages, they know about term deposits, and they know how interest works and all of that kind of thing. Something that has been a little bit tricky is the fact that I've been in a composite class for 2 years, so had some year 5s who then stayed in here as year 6s. And this was a little bit of a worry at the start of last year of how this was going to work, because I had all these year 6s absolutely chomping at the bit to get the modules open again, and the year 5s who had no idea what everything was all about. So we combated that by setting up our year 6s as experts, and they then took those year 5s through that process and trained them up to be fantastic financial literacy learners as well. Another couple of things that I find really helpful from the Banqer website and the Banqer resources are the Banqer bites, the quick bites. They're just your little short one-off lessons that you can chuck in every now and then just to keep the kids interested. And the videos that have been added in the last 12 months have been really, really helpful for introducing each module. So where that used to be me talking about what I knew, now it's our Banqer experts behind the scenes who can share that as well. And it's just nice to be able to put that up on your TV, and it's not just always you that they're looking at. So yeah, that's probably all of my stuff for now. I've got a little bit more later in the discussion part, so I'll pass on to Brooke. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Kerry. Oh my goodness, that was amazing seeing the sorts of things that you do in your classroom. Banqer, in a lot of ways in my class, I think looks really similar, but also very different. I probably have a more minimalistic approach. I haven't got the amazing displays and things that you've got, but interestingly, my journey into Banqer was probably much the same as yours. I came to Banqer in early 2020. I moved to a new school where we had students with one-to-one iPads, and Banqer was one of the many things that I learned about in that year that we were able to access online because the kids had easy access to their devices. And Banqer for me has really done in my classroom now what I used to do prior to 2020, but I used to do it in a much more, I would say, clunky way. I printed out classroom money, so we had a classroom economy system, but it was with printed notes. I, stuffed the kids' pay slips at the end of every week. I tracked which jobs people had. I paid out their jobs. I did all of those things myself, but that was a very time-consuming and laborious process. So in a lot of ways, Banqer has done much the same thing, but in a much, much easier and more streamlined way. So in my classroom, at the very start of the year, we talked about the basic income. We had a look at what would be the minimum wage for teenagers in their first job. and we worked out that $250 a week was probably a reasonable amount of money for the amount of hours that they spend at school. And then from there, we had a class discussion about what that would look like in terms of behaviour in our class. I'm really big on positive behaviour, rewarding positive behaviour. So the kids and I sat and talked at length about what that would look like in our classroom. So we have all manner of things that all link to Banqer. So every week they have a race the teacher, where we just have points to tally up on the board, and for every point that they beat me by on a Friday afternoon, they get a $5 bonus. If I beat them, they don't lose anything. We also have group points, so then there's a race, and then that's a tiered system for which group got the most points at the end of the week. That gets paid out on Fridays. They really, I find, they negotiate hard for fines for poor behaviour, which isn't really something that I'm so on board with, but they feel very strongly about that. So we have a $20 fine for warnings going on the whiteboard, but we also have a bonus system where on Friday, if you haven't had any warnings, then you get bonus money. And then there's lots of other little opportunities for bonuses. If they get a compliment from another teacher, for example, for their amazing behaviour at assembly, then they get bonus Banqer bucks. So it's really a nice way to follow up on those positive behaviours. And I really can't overstate how much kids love Banqer. They are so, from the moment that you present it at the start of the year, they are just chomping at the bit. And every time I even say the word Banqer, the first thing, a hand goes up. Are we logging into Banqer today? Are we looking at our bank accounts? It just hypes itself. Quite amazing how engaging it is. Like Kerry, we have classroom jobs. So we have librarians. I have teachers assistants. They especially love that job, and then they all get paid through the Banqer system. And we also have expenses set up within the platform. I also do an auction, but I actually do our auction every 5 weeks, and that's also when I reset the jobs. So I terminate the contracts after 5 weeks, and they have an opportunity to apply for new jobs. And our auction, it doesn't cost much, but things like reading books. I do a lot of op shopping, so things like reading books, stationery, pencils, sharpeners, notebooks are high value items. So not anything outlandish in the auction, but an opportunity for them to spend their own money. Some of the kids choose to spend nothing. They hold on to every dollar that's in their accounts, and others spend almost everything in the auction. But I think that's a particularly lovely opportunity for kids who they might not get pocket money, and they might not have the chance to make choices about how they spend their money. And often after an auction, I'll hear kids saying, "Oh, I wish I hadn't spent that money." And I think that's a really good learning opportunity for them to have their own money, to have those choices about what they do with their money, and then sort of see, I suppose, that money is all about choice. Money is finite, and it's the choices that you make in terms of spending the money. On the screen there, I have a picture I have lucky scratch cards, and I just used a random number generator online to generate just some random numbers, and then got little stickers online that are little scratchy stickers, and they are, I guess, a high value prize in the class. So if someone wins a friendly competition or a game or something like that, then they earn one of those. And again, that's a really amazing way to motivate kids, and it's something that doesn't cost a teacher any money. That within the Banqer platform, they're just so excited to have some extra money to spend. So that's been a particular winner in my classroom. I think if I can go on to my next slide, thank you. The things that I've found in terms of student impact have been quite amazing. In our Year 5 curriculum, students need to create simple financial plans, and that's something that I've always worked on, but it's very difficult if kids don't really understand money, if they haven't had their own money and they haven't had their own experiences with money. So I find that working with Banqer, they can see that money is finite, that you only have so much money to spend, and you have choices about what you do with that money. So I think they start to get a much better sense of the value of money, and they also start to realise that not all income is disposable. That yes, they have this much money, but they also have to think about what costs that they're going to have to cover with that money. We've just this week unlocked the transport module, so they're starting to see that transport has a cost. And we're talking in class about the different costs that different transport options have, and that you can't opt out of those costs because you can't walk everywhere. There's only so much you can do to minimise those costs. So I think they're really starting to see that money has a real purpose, and that you have to be quite careful about what you do with your money, because it's not all just about fun and just about spending money. You have to think about what you're going to do with it. And I always encourage my kids to reflect on the choices that their parents have made. You know, who's wearing really expensive shoes, who's been on an expensive holiday. That's choices that your parents have made about where they're going to spend their money. And I think the kids have a far greater understanding, having worked with the Banqer platform, of seeing that money doesn't just manufacture itself. You can't. There's a certain point where you run out. I unlock the modules. I try to run at about one module a fortnight, so that kids have a little bit of time to then. I do whole class learning when I unlock a module, and then the kids have the next 2 weeks to, get their basic income or to pay for expenses or apply for jobs, and then that way we sort of, I guess, have enough time to cover each of the different components. That being said, for reasons beyond my control, I've actually never managed to unlock the real estate module. So that's my goal for this year, is to make it to real estate. Transport has been incredibly exciting for the kids, so I'm really hopeful about what the real estate module will look like. I'm hoping to have that started early enough in the year that I guess they can think more about the costs that come with housing. I didn't want to just unlock that right at the end of the year when, much like Kerry, I do an auction, a bigger one at the end of the year, and so I didn't want the choices about real estate to be coming to them at the same time as the end of the auction. So yeah, I found it's a really good way to cover that curriculum content that is such a difficult, such a difficult concept to cover when money is really abstract. Much like Kerry, I really appreciate the Banqer videos, and probably the favourite in my class lately has been, I don't know how many of them there are, but the Choose Your Own Adventure videos that are online, where kids can, we watch a little bit of the video and then they have to choose what the character's going to do, and they just think they are fabulous. Every time we watch one, they say, are there any more of those? We really enjoy doing those. So they don't just enjoy using the platform, but they also really enjoy the learning that comes with it. And they have so many questions to ask every time I unlock a module. Is this how this works in real life? What about this? What if this happens? One of my students from last year, this year, was unfortunately in a car accident, but she was able to tell me it's fine because my mum has comprehensive car insurance, and she knew what that meant, which was quite amazing, because most 11-year-olds don't know what insurance is, let alone the difference between comprehensive insurance and third-party insurance. So I find that there's those really amazing conversations, and that the kids are so curious. They want to know so much about the real world, and what's my first job going to look like, and how do I apply for it, and how do I write my CV? And the fact that Banqer has all of that in the modules just makes that content 1,000 times easier to cover, but also incredibly engaging for kids. I said it before, the kids love Banqer. We have some classes in the school who aren't using it as yet in year 5, and the kids hear about it in the playground and then start handling their teachers pretty quickly about when their class is going to be making a start with it.
Awesome. I heard a lot of crossover, but also some different things between the two of you, which is really cool. The conversations that your students are having in class are amazing. One thing was the auctions. I've heard from many different teachers how they do auctions, as it's one of Banqer teachers' favorite things to do. Auctions, I guess, in market days would be another one. Some teachers do them every 5 weeks. Some do them at the end of term. I've heard more recently about online auctions, not just live auctions and silent auctions. So there's so many things that you can do, and it's really cool to be able to hear how you're both kind of using the platform. Those of you that are out there kind of tuning in, they've definitely given us some ideas to think about, but you're probably wondering how you set up your own Banqer classroom, how you get started. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look into that. I'm going to show you how you can actually set up your own virtual economy in your own classrooms. Let me get this slide going. All right, so this is the Banqer Primary platform. So after registering as a teacher, creating your own classroom, you'll come to this dashboard. And so I'll spend the next 5 minutes or so showing you how to navigate this platform itself. We're going to go ahead and start in the top left corner. You'll see a Manage Students tab. And so here, what you'll have is your full class list. All the students that you've got in your Banqer classroom, their everyday and their savings accounts. You'll notice a few numbers. If you want more details into those balances that you can see, you've got to click on the student name. And so once you've done that, then you'll be able to see individual transactions in both of those accounts, everyday and savings. As teachers within Banqer, you are able to view what your students can see from their screens. So all you have to do is click that button to use Banqer as that student and click to confirm. By viewing and changing student passwords, when you click on that button there, you'll be able to see the student login details. We don't use email addresses, but instead unique usernames and passwords are created for your students. So you can print out these cards and give them to students to log in on their own. You can also add new students to your class as you go along if you need to, or you can select to delete if anyone has left your class and you'd like to remove them from your class list. Creating groups within Banqer is also very easy. So there's a groups tab at the top. All you need to do here is create table groups, math groups, reading groups, any other way to make some of those more frequent payments and debits a little bit easier on yourself. Moving down into the payment and transfers tab, this is where you'll be able to make one-off and automatic payments in your classroom. So first you'll select the people to pay. You can select them either individually as a whole class, or if you've created groups, you can select the group first. Then what you'll do is go ahead and put in a quick reference note that might be one word, a short phrase, just to remind you what that payment was. Put in the amount that you'd like to pay and click that button to make payment at the bottom. You'll get a notification right away that payment was successful. You'll go through those same exact steps to make a debit for your students. Your students won't initially be able to make payments to each other. However, you can allow this from your end as a teacher. So you'll just check this box at the bottom to allow transactions between students. This is really helpful if you are having an auction or a market day and you want to allow this for a certain amount of time. We're going to jump down now into modules. So the crux of the platform, those financial concepts that you can enable for your students. At the moment, you'll see the circles are gray. They're not enabled or active yet, but they will turn green, letting you know when they are active and visible for your class. So clicking on basic income, the first module here. Once we've opened up the module itself, you'll notice the basic format of the module. We've got a couple of videos for you, and these were mentioned by our presenters. We've got a teacher video and also a student video below, as well as quiz questions that you can view before enabling it for your students. Resource buttons, as well as an enable module button. I do recommend to watch that teacher video before you introduce the concept, and also to have a look at our teacher resource hub. And so once you get to the hub, there's plenty of free resources for you to access here, lesson plans, extension activities, all kinds of things. Enabling that module, you'll get that notification, and you'll notice that the circle has now turned green. The students can view the information from their end, and you're good to go. Easy as that. So that's pretty much all you need to know to actually get started and set up your class economy. You can explore around a bit more, but it's simple as that to kind of get started. You'll have a link at the end of this webinar today to actually book a demo with me if you'd like. We can go a bit more in depth into those modules. I also do TV sessions with groups of teachers. So just let me know. I'm happy to help you get set up if that's something that you're interested in. So for now, I'm going to jump back to our presenters. We're going to circle back as a some questions. I'd like to pick their brains just a little bit more. I know that starting off with something new in classrooms can be a bit daunting at times. So the first question that I have, we'll start with you, Brooke, is do you have any advice for teachers getting started with Banqer Primary? First time, logging in, what would you recommend?
Great question. My best advice, I think, is just jump in, just make a start. I think it's quite easy, especially for Time 4 teachers, to sort of think things through and sometimes get a bit bogged down in the details. But my best advice would be to make a start, because once you make a start and you set up the student accounts, the students are so motivated that they just want you to keep going. And so then it's very easy to just move your way through the modules. So you don't have to start the platform understanding all of the modules and all of the content. I think the key really is just making a start, and then once the kids are set up, then just going through the modules one at a time, because that makes it much less daunting. And I think also think about what you do in your classroom that can fit really well with Banqer. So what parts of your practice, in terms of classroom management or in terms of rewards, can be modified to suit Banqer. Because Banqer does all of the payments and everything automatically, it saves a tremendous amount of time. So if you're able to blend it, I suppose, with the things that you're already doing, it's not something extra that teachers have to do. It actually reduces workload rather than adds to it.
Cool. You mentioned before, Brooke, that students kind of push you to open more modules. I heard you mention in your presentation that you typically every fortnight, is that your kind of time frame for actually opening a new module?
Yeah.
But they might be chomping at the bit for you to open them a bit sooner so they can do those quiz questions, earn some quiz rewards, and kind of learn that new concept.
And as soon as I open one, I haven't even finished teaching that concept, and the question is, what's the next one? When are we doing the next one? What's coming next? When are you opening that? Because they're just so keen to keep going and to learn more and earn more money.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Kerry? Did you have anything to add to that, or any different advice for new time
Definitely
teachers?
That just give it a shot, like it is. It can be quite daunting to begin with. There's a lot of modules and, you're like, I don't really know about that myself. But just taking that time, my probably advice would be, and it's quite nice to hear from you, Brooke, that you haven't made it to the real estate yet, because I always feel like I go a little bit too slow. But I probably would give that advice just to take it slow to begin with and give the kids a chance to earn that money without having the extra stuff like term deposits and the real estate module, because once you do open those, then the money just skyrockets, and that's when it becomes that's when the real financial learning comes, in a way, because they then see how their money can grow. But it's also good to give them that real life of we're earning that money, and then your only option is to put that in your savings and then see that grow like that. So it's that fine line between, the kids really, really wanting to get into it, but also giving them that chance to learn about that. Something I probably, in hindsight, would like to have done earlier every year, and I always forget about it, is the Kiwisaver. I think that's important to do earlier in the year so that they can see that grow throughout the year, rather than introducing that a little bit later on. So probably, just kind of adding on to yours a little bit, Brooke, just that, it will gain momentum, but just giving the kids that chance for them to grow their money by their hard work really teaches them that money.
Yes, and I would absolutely agree that as much as they want to do it all now, that's really overwhelming. So you really have to you have to slow it down a little bit so that their learning is chunked, so that they're able to learn one section of it and then sort of master what that means in Banqer before moving on.
I mean, an example where I had some kids really just wake up to how it all worked was actually in that first year of lockdown. We had, I would pay them for how many Mathletics points they earned each week, which was one of our platforms that we encourage them to use because the school funds that for their learning. And that we got back to school, and there were some kids, they were like, how is that person now top of the leaderboard? And they got to see that hard work that person had been putting in at home had pushed them right up. So it's that value of, that hard work and earning money for your hard work.
Going back to your point that you mentioned about Kiwisaver, that was interesting, Kerry. I've talked with a few teachers recently, and they said, for the most part, we follow your recommended order of modules, your suggested order, but I found that introducing Kiwisaver after careers and employment and talking about, doing a job, earning a salary, earning an income, but then what happens in real life when we're not earning that anymore, and then moving kind of into Kiwisaver or superannuation for Australia right after that. Yeah, superannuation. Sorry, Brooke. For the audience that's tuning in Australia, we've got same module, same concepts, but Kiwisaver and superannuation is the difference. I guess introducing that kind of close to careers and employment, maybe close after you've done that module, can also be good in the class, because then they can start, as you mentioned, Kerry, building up that fund. And then once you, at the end of using Banqer, unlock that superannuation or Kiwisaver, they've saved up a bit more money as well. Cool. So you've both been using Banqer for several years now, and I'm sure how you've implemented Banqer is always evolving and changing each year. But looking ahead into the future, how do you plan to future leverage Banqer Primary in your teaching? Brooke, are there any new activities that you'd like to explore, or any new ideas?
I think I'd like to spend more time looking through the additional resources, because there is just so much within the resources. So I think I've probably only scratched the surface in terms of the extra things that I've done with my students. So I'd really like to delve into those a little bit more, and in particular the homework tasks. I've not been really good at sending those home, but when I do, the feedback that I get is really good. I think the conversations that prompts is really excellent. And I'm hoping, I teach in a very large school, and I'd really like to, in future years, I guess, have a more cohesive approach to Banqer across year levels, so that I'm able to perhaps do more of what Kerry does and pick the brains of other teachers in my school, so that we can, I guess, put our ideas together and have that momentum with each other.
You touched on a point around conversations at home through the homework. We also have parent and caregiver updates, where you can invite parents to receive email updates. So that's another way that you can kind of keep those conversations going at home. It's optional from the teacher's end, but also optional from the parents and caregivers if they want to opt in to get some updates around what's happening in the Banqer classroom. Do you use those at all, or have you tried that at all?
I haven't, no. Don't know, Kerry, if you have.
No.
I have, and I actually have taught I've got my daughter in my class this year and my son for the past 2 years. So I've had it from the parent point of view too. So the emails are great. They're just quite brief, but they say, your child has recently bought a car, or opened a term deposit, or done this. You may want to have a little chat to them about that. So it's just enough, it's not a long, onerous email that parents think, oh, here we go. It's just something that just, like Madeline said, prompts those conversations at home, which is what we want.
Because oftentimes students will go home and, the parent asks, what did you learn at school today? Nothing. So then they know by receiving those emails what they can prompt, those conversations and talk about. Like, I see that you, opened a term deposit, and continue from there. So it's really cool to have parents interact in those conversations. So if you haven't tried them, I definitely recommend giving them a go. And again, it's optional for the parents if they want to receive those emails from their end too. And what about you, Kerry? Anything, future plans, ideas?
Something I would like to do this year, next term, is we touched on it in, must have been 2020, when we had our last election, but we didn't probably do it justice, whereas this year I feel like I've got a bit more time. What I'd like to do is open the tax module eventually, and that's a module I have never got to completely, and I'd like to run this around our election that's coming up, where the kids are in randomized groups and they have to start a political party, and they will then put forward what they think our tax rate should be within the classroom, and whether they think our jobs are paying the right amount, and all those kind of things, whether they think our term deposit interest rates are correct or whether that can be changed. So just really involving the kids. When we do our jobs at the start of the year, I usually set them, but maybe a term in, they can actually say, hey, we're not doing this very well, maybe we could add this to the job market. So I think the election thing is hopefully going to lead us into that tax module, which I haven't been brave enough yet to tackle. So I think this year is my time, because I like to just do something a little bit different each year for each class that's a little bit different from the last. So that's next term's project.
It's funny you say that, Kerry. I find that my kids like to just occasionally campaign for a new job to be added. Of course, there's one that's going to hold that job, but they do like to look around and say, I think we should have this job. We recently started classroom cleaners. They said, I think we should have this job and it should pay this much and I should have that job. So they're very motivated to add to our job list.
Oh, that's great.
Have you had any students that negotiate a pay raise?
My own son tried to negotiate a pay raise after he did a job and saw something what someone else was doing and thought, yep, no, that's worth as much as that. But that's that whole thing. He felt brave enough to come and talk to me about it. But no, the kids are pretty good, but they get quite involved in the process, and they really kind of see that if their co-worker isn't pulling their weight, it's that whole thing, well, I'm getting paid the same amount as them, but they're not doing the job as well as me. So I guess all that life lessons and fairness comes into it as well.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that election as well. We do have, of course, our teacher resource hub that I pointed out. It has a lot of resources that connect to the modules themselves, but there is a section called Other where we've got some, banker bites, some smaller activities, but then lessons that are financial literacy lessons, and they fit into different ways. So not necessarily on basic income expenses. We had one that kind of jogged my memory based on what Kerry was talking about with the class election on government budget setting. So it might not fit into exactly what you're talking about, but maybe you can grab some ideas from that.
Sounds great.
Cool. Is there anything else that you'd like to wrap up as far as sharing with the audience, Brooke or Kerry?
Not particularly, just apart from, I think Banqer is really well thought out. That they've thought really carefully about what helps teachers manage their classroom, things like the groups and automatic payments and that sort of stuff. It's really user-friendly, I think, for teachers.
Yeah, I can add to that as well. I've found that the behind-the-scenes people at Banqer are just amazing to deal with. Like if I've had any issues along the way, I will email and you'll get an email back straight away. And they're very helpful. They'll jump online and talk you through things. So to have a service like that within our countries is pretty impressive. Yeah, no, it's amazing.
They're really open to suggestions and ideas, and that's really nice that you feel not just, I guess, like an end user. You sort of feel like you can have, be involved with the Banqer system, which I really like.
And it's always evolving as well. Like having been with it for 4 years, you can see that teachers have suggested things along the way, and like Brooke just said, they take that on board, and next thing that pops up in your email saying, oh, we're doing this now. So yeah, it's been amazing process to go through with Banqer.
Agreed.
It's been great to see you both kind of evolve in your classrooms and keep using Banqer year after year. So thank you. Thank you both. We're going to go ahead and wrap up the discussion there, but we do have one more poll question for you all to participate in. So you should see that come up on your screens now. Based on what you've seen today, what are you most interested in taking back to your own classrooms? You'll also find some links in the chat window today to access your classroom kit, which has heaps of resources to get you started right away. Or you can sign up for a demo session with me to dig a little bit deeper into specific parts of the platform that you might be interested in. So feel free to check those out. Remember that there's no cost to use Banqer Primary with primary students. So if you're interested in our approach to financial education and our simulative financial literacy platforms, you can register directly after this event. You'll be able to sign up on the next page. So kind of wrapping it up today, I've really enjoyed facilitating this webinar. A big thank you to everyone that's come along, and a special thanks to our wonderful presenters, Kerry and Brooke. We appreciate all the time that you've given us to share your classroom experiences and Banqer expertise. So that's all for now. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up there, but we hope to see everyone a bit later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.